Testing 1, 2. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Temple Buddhist Center's Sunday meditation service. My name is Victor, and I am honored to be of service this morning. We hope that our Sunday meditation service today finds each and every one of you happy and healthy, but please know that if you are struggling in any way, we hope that Temple Buddhist Center, this Sangha, and our service can be a source of strength for you, a source of refuge as we open our hearts to you and to your loved ones. So let's take a moment to simply take time to focus on conscious breath work for a few moments, where we will begin our service this morning with some conscious breath work, where we seal the mouth, breathe deeply through the nose, hold that breath for a few moments, and then release slowly so that the exhale is longer than the inhale. Let's begin. Holding that breath for just a moment, feeling the fullness of the lungs, and releasing slowly, sort of a long, slow, metered release. And as you do so, simply bring the awareness back to the body, noticing any points of tension, any points of contraction, remembering to release the forehead and the eyebrows. Let the jaw rest easy, the shoulders relax, and the tummy softens. Partnering with the form, with the body, to find a new level of gentleness with every exhalation. And a second conscious breath together. And releasing slowly. And as you do so, giving yourself full and complete permission to unplug from that energy of going and doing, striving, efforting, accomplishing, trying to meet the needs or the perceived needs that the world asks of us. And instead, taking time in sacred Sangha to cultivate the energy of just being. And a third conscious breath together. And releasing. And as you release, become present in the here, in the now, in this present moment. Here at Temple Buddhist Center, we like to begin our services with a little bit of chanting. Chanting is an integral part of every tradition. Chanting is not about being a singer. It's about having a voice. It is about a deeply devotional expression of what is sacred within you and sharing that with the world. Our chant today is Namo Amitabha Hamsa. Namo Amitabha Hamsa Hamsa. And Amitabha represents the Buddha of the Western realm. When you see a Buddha on a mandala, on the western portion of it will be the Amitabha Buddha. And this chant honors the Buddha of infinite light. And Hamsa in the Sanskrit tradition means I am that. I am that. And so let's take another conscious breath. And let's begin. Together. Namo Amitabha Hamsa Hamsa. 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 With a smile. Namo Amitabha Hamsa Hamsa. Namo Amitabha Hamsa Hamsa. Namo Amitabha Hamsa Hamsa. Once more. Namo Amitabha Hamsa Hamsa. And so I also want to take time to welcome all of our Sangha members from the PJ Sangha. All those folks at home joining us from all around the world, at home in their nice warm PJs. Sometimes they come and join us in here, and of course you can always tell who they are because they're still in their PJs. I also want to take a moment and just recognize Christine and her daughter Allison. Oh, Allison, where's your friend? Set her up there, put her up there. She has a drum too. So this morning, in the joy of chanting, the joy of music, we have Christine and her daughter Allison playing, and Allison's friend, it's her dolly, and her name's Llama. So, so if you, those of you in the back probably can't see because she's kind of down low up here, but if you get a chance to stand up and see, it's very cute. Again, welcome everybody to Temple Buddhist Center. Here at TBC, we practice a blend of Western psychology and Eastern philosophy, and we call this Western Buddhism. And this new and exciting form of spirituality is dynamic, it is active, it is inclusive, and it focuses on core Buddhist insights, as well as mindfulness, meditation, and their practical applications in our daily lives. Our goal here at TBC is not to get everyone to agree on a specific lineage or philosophy or sect of Buddhism, but rather it is on a shared experience of mindfulness, oneness, and love, whether we are chanting together, whether we are sharing from the heart, or whether you're spending time in noble silence. We respect that you will practice at a level or a form that is comfortable for you. We take refuge in the three jewels and acknowledge these core values as expressions of the awakened mind, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. We value awareness of our Buddha nature as well as the Buddha nature of all beings, bringing a fresh and a new perspective to each and every encounter. The second jewel, the Dharma, the truth teachings that release us from fear and delusion and help us to realize the true nature of who we are. And finally, Sangha, our spiritual community, an essential part of growth, where we come together in sacred Sangha to practice the teachings and to help each other along every step of the path. So let's take a moment now to silence any cell phones or electronic devices as we prepare for a time in contemplation and meditation. We will begin with the prayer of refuge, and we will recite this 3 times for the 3 jewels. Taking a conscious breath together. Let's begin. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, We go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. And so, as we enter a time of meditation, if you have an extensive practice, then we invite you to practice in a way that is fitting for you this morning. If you are newer to meditation, just a quick reminder, we do have cushions up front here too. Looks like there's about 4, 5, or 6 actually still available for those of you that might like to sit up here cross-legged. And so if you are newer to meditation, we will begin with an opening dedication of intention. We will awaken the bell 3 times for the 3 jewels. And then there will be a brief guided meditation presented today by our special guest. He's just called the Hermit. He came down from a cave that he's been meditating for 40 years to join us today. And then afterwards, our hermit will lovingly bring us into the present moment. We will sound the return bell, and then it will be time for today's Dharma talk, or teaching. And so with that, let's take a conscious breath together. Body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness, transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow, and realize the true nature of who they are.
As we listen to the sound of the bell, we follow it into the silence. The same with each thought. We just notice, let it run its course, come into the silence. Every sensation in the body we feel, we let it rise and fall. Come back into that silent space of equilibrium, balance, centeredness in the body. We create the intention of being aware in each moment. We create the intention of feeling the sensations in the body, of being aware of our thoughts. But first, we focus on the breath. Feeling the breath in the body. If you can, let the breath have a life of its own. Let the body breathe naturally. And our work is to train the attention, the power of intention. And our intention is to be aware of the breath. To follow the breath all the way through its cycle from beginning to end. And whenever our attention gets caught up in thinking or any other object that pulls us away from the breath, just notice what that is. Thinking, hearing, sensing. And then gently return the awareness to the breath. So we're strengthening the power of attention. But we do so gently, yet persistently. Coming back to the breath again and again and again, without judgment, without any commentary. We come back to the breath, simply breathe, feeling the breath, feeling the breath. Returning to the breath. At this time, I invite you to bring awareness to your body. Once again, if you can, sense the entire body sitting. Feeling the arms and the legs, the hands, the feet. Feeling your body in the chair, on the cushion. Then opening awareness to hearing. And in a moment, you'll hear the sound of the bell, and as you do, I invite you to gently open your eyes and incorporate seeing into your practice. So we then enter our so-called everyday life awareness, seeing and hearing, sensing, thinking, tasting, smelling, fully alive in all of the senses of the body, mind, and also fully awake. Here's the sound of the bell. Good morning.
Good morning.
I feel like the groundhog coming out of his cave. Yeah, I thought we'd have a little fun this morning identifying the hermit. The hermit is an archetype that may be an unfamiliar word for many people. It's a psychological term, and it was put into use with Dr. Carl Jung, a protege, a student of Sigmund Freud's. And Freud, as you probably know, discovered, uncovered, or rediscovered the unconscious, that we all have a personal unconscious that makes us do things that we sometimes are embarrassed by or whatever, you know. But Jung also found that we have a collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is common to every human being. The personal unconscious is unique to each individual. So in the collective unconscious are all of the attributes of the psyche common to every human being on the planet. In the unconscious, the collective unconscious, are instincts. All human beings have essentially the same instincts. How we handle those instincts are, very widely from culture to culture. But the basic instincts are the same. Basic drives are sometimes called. And also we have within the collective unconscious what Jung called archetypes. Archetype is a pattern of seeing and understanding. archetypes shape not the way we behave as instincts do, but they shape the way we see and perceive and understand the world. So we see the world, and particularly other people, through the lens of these various archetypes. And just to give you a feel for it, if you were to write a novel, how would you begin? Of course, with the characters. And probably the characters would have certain patterns. You got to have a hero of some sort, right? If you're going to have a hero, you have to have somebody that's a victim, a damsel in distress or something like that. And of course, you have to have a villain. The good guys and the bad guys, you know. If you look at movies like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, the science fiction movies, fantasy movies, you see the archetypes depicted very clearly there. You know, the Princess Leia was the damsel in distress, and the Darth Vader and his boss Palpatine, is that what his name was? They were the villains. In case you missed it, they're villains. Pretty hard to miss, isn't it? I mean, it's almost, you think of Darth Vader when you think of the term villain. And of course, the hero, Luke Skywalker, sort of the hero in training. And then the sort of the sage, the master teacher is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and later on Yoda. Yoda's more of a hermit. Obi-Wan is a little more of the magician. See, so you got all of these different types. Han Solo was the soldier of fortune, the opportunist. And then the drones would be representative of the machine-like behavior of our programmed way of being, automatic, unconscious, doing the same thing over and over again, doing what we're told to do, you see. So in any story, particularly fantasy or science fiction, we can see these characters at work. But typically we don't see how we see through them in our everyday life. And yet, if we look at the basic drama triangle, if you will, the villain, the victim, and the rescuer, we see history that way. We see current events that way. You know, the Civil War is a classic example. People from the North and the people from the South would agree that there's a hero, a villain, and a rescuer. Now, they wouldn't agree on who's playing these roles. You see, that's the rub. But everybody tends to see through these roles. 9/11. You know, we're the victims. The U.S. is the victim. Radical Islam is the villain. And George W. in the military are the heroes. I mean, that's the way it was depicted. Now, if you go to Saudi Arabia, talk to the people there, you might get a different viewpoint, but you'd still have a victim, a villain, and a hero. Some see the jihadist as a hero, particular type of hero called the martyr. The martyr is a hero that, you know, dies for the cause. So anyhow, I think you're getting a feel for it. These archetypes may be dormant within us, or they may be activated depending upon life conditions, various times in our life, various times throughout history. They're somewhat like with caterpillars. Caterpillars have cells that are totally useless to the caterpillar. I need some water, because whenever I can't say caterpillar, that's a good sign that I need some water. So these imaginal cells mean nothing to the caterpillar, but when the caterpillar builds its cocoon and turns into mush, those imaginal cells then fire up. They're activated. Some of them become the wings of the butterfly. Some of them become the thorax and the antennae and the head and the legs and so on and so forth. So these imaginal cells are invisible to the caterpillar, but they're absolutely vital to the butterfly. And so the archetypes within the psyche are somewhat like those imaginal cells that we may not even notice until circumstances fire them up. So I want to talk about a particular archetype called the Hermit. So if we look at the image of the Hermit, which I believe you can all see, okay? What's the first thing you notice about the Hermit? Well, he's standing on a top of a mountain, right? A mountain plateau. So he's way up in the air, up high altitude, which is symbolic, of course, of a high state of consciousness. The hermit is the sage, the teacher, the guide. We can see that the hermit is all by himself. It's lonely at the top, as they say. But he wasn't planted there. The hermit, the staff was particularly put there to indicate that he had to make the journey, step by step, breath by breath, up the mountain. We see that the hermit's holding a lamp. The lamp is probably not visible to the people all the way down in the valley. But as you begin to climb the mountain, you see a little glimmer of light. And then it gets brighter and brighter and brighter as you get closer, you see. So the hermit guides by holding the light. Yeah, we have to make the journey. The hermit doesn't come down to us. We have to come up to him. So in a way, the hermit can be like a bodhisattva in Buddhist terms, Mahayana Buddha. So that's the hermit. Now, the hermit, an archetype, is not something you become. I'm not sitting here advocating that you become a hermit necessarily. I mean, if you want to, that's great, but that's not what I'm here for. But hermit is a part of yourself that's important to recognize and accept because it's one of our inner teachers. The hermit is that part of ourselves that stands at the top of the mountain, holds the light. And sometimes when we're lost, sometimes when we're tired, cranky, not feeling well, we can look up and maybe we see the light up there at the top of the mountain. So we keep on our journey. We stay on our journey. So an archetype, if we become conscious of it and cultivate it, it develops into the mature aspect of the archetype. And the mature aspect of the hermit is what I've been talking about, basically. The hermit is alone, yet the hermit is not lonely. He's not rejected by society. He is alone by virtue of his spiritual attainment. He is alone simply because there are not that many humans that have evolved yet to that level of the hermit. And again, this is the hermit within us. Now, we all have the hermit within us to some degree. The hermit has attained autonomy, which means she is perfectly happy within themselves. They're whole within themselves. They do not need other people to define them. The hermit loves solitude, lives in solitude. And yet at the same time, the hermit is always watching out for other people, always holding the light. So his solitude is not isolation or rejection, but it is simply that that's where his life has taken him. Now, the shadow side of the archetypes will come up if we're not aware of them. So if something in our world or our life activates that archetype, it will come up, but it won't be on the mature side. For example, with the hermit, what might be the shadow side of the hermit? Well, it would be isolation, someone that lives in isolation, withdrawing from the world, out of fear or hatred, craving, or aversion. Unhealthy withdrawal. Sometimes spiritual elitism, elitism, I should say. The hermit can become a little smug in the unhealthy expression. Sort of like what I call the counterfeit Buddha. In other words, we engage in the image of I'm more enlightened than other people. You see. So the hermit can be healthy or unhealthy, but what's important is that we recognize it and we cultivate it and use it and let it use us, because it works both ways. If we're conscious, we can begin to work with the archetype in developing it for our growth and our awakening. And if we're unconscious, then it becomes a problem that needs to be dealt with. So how to recognize the archetype when it starts to emerge, the hermit archetype? You may find yourself having a desire for solitude. It may be just an inner nudge, or it may be a strong calling to go away on a 10-day, 30-day, 90-day retreat. Or it may be just the feeling you want to be alone and meditate for 10 minutes a day. But that's one aspect of the hermit calling us, is that need for solitude that we feel. Some people don't need it. Some of us do hear that call and feel it very strongly. The archetype, you may recognize it if you feel somewhat detached from the world. That's not unusual in the spiritual journey. Not that we're rejecting the world, but it just seems like the world is kind of wearing out, It doesn't do for us what it used to do. We may feel lonely in the crowd, so to speak. And it's not because we're lonely for people to go bowling with. It's lonely because we don't find that many people that can relate to us the way that feeds our soul. The desire for simplicity. That's another indication the hermit may be emerging. I want to unclutter my life, and I want to stop all the doing and doing and doing, and buying and buying and buying. And just live simply and be. To be rather than do. And the archetype, as it emerges, you may find that your primary joy in life is in sharing and learning and teaching others. When people ask teachers, why do you teach? This is spiritual teaching, not public school teaching. Why do you teach? There's nothing else I want to do. That's really the bottom line. That's what brings me joy. That's what brings me pleasure. You see? And it's a much deeper joy than, you know, the Chiefs winning, which is nice. I'm not advocating other than that, otherwise. But I am saying that the joy I'm talking about is a much, much deeper, richer form of joy. This hermit calls us to step out of our day-to-day life and to experience solitude. Again, whether it's for 10 minutes or 90 days. One of my classmates from Spirit Rock, when I was in teacher training there, he ended his training and then began a year-long retreat in solitude. And I talked with him afterwards, and he said, the world has changed. Because he has changed. So he's definitely not the same person that came out. Much like the caterpillar and the butterfly. So here's something I'll read to you that, again, just reiterates what I've been saying. Sometimes early in our spiritual journey, the hermit archetype will call you to withdraw and to engage in intensive studies. You may find that you feel separated from others by virtue of your intense desire to awaken. And that's one of the things that often happens when we first discover the practice, first discover the journey of awakening. We want to share it with everybody. Our friends, our family. Oh, you got to come to this retreat. You got to listen to this teacher. You got to read this book. And they go, uh-huh. And that's about as far as it goes. You see? And we discover that not everybody is excited about the journey as we are. So we feel separate, not because there's anything wrong with us, but we're not part of the crowd as we once were in many ways, you see. Once you begin to awaken, relationships and situations which no longer match your level of awakening begin to melt away. Some people find this disconcerting. But it's just quite natural that you find some people you have less and less in common with, and people that you have more and more in common with. And I've found over the years that virtually all my friends are on the journey, not because I've consciously picked them out that way. That's just the way it unfolds. And so again, that can feel like I'm alone. What's wrong with me? I feel like I'm a stranger in a strange land. And in a way we are, because we are no longer of the world the way we used to be. We may be in the world, but we're not of it, you see. We're not living by the same archetype as is the rest of the world. As you near the summit, you will find that you have reached a stage in your journey where learning can offer you nothing new. And I'm going to read a quote here from Akshara Noor, an Indian teacher. There are no more maps, no more creeds, no more philosophies. From here on in, directions come straight from the universe. The curriculum is being revealed millisecond by millisecond, invisibly, intuitively, spontaneously. So, the hermit is calling us at whatever stage of the journey we're at to stay on the journey and keep looking for the light. Now, I understand there's some practical applications that if you're married and have a family, you probably aren't going to drop everything and attend a 90-day retreat. But you can find ways, if you desire, to take time out from your life, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes. Even when I travel, I find at the hotel I can meditate. I can meditate while I'm waiting for somebody to make a presentation. I can sometimes meditate at a meeting, at a boring meeting, you know. Let me think about what you said. So we find if solitude and the desire to engage the journey and look for the light, as that becomes stronger and stronger for you, I really invite you to follow it. It's not about becoming a hermit. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to convert people to hermitude. Is there some word, hermitude? But it's about recognizing that archetype within ourselves and to really honor that place within ourselves that's saying, go within, come up higher, look for the light. So thank you for listening. I invite you just to join me in sitting for a moment as we listen to the Hermit within. And I say thank you for your presence and your practice, and we share the merits of our practice with all beings everywhere. So be it.
Thank you so much, Robert. So taking a moment to just embody the teachings, dropping from the head into the heart, feeling the truth, sensing it instead of trying to analyze it, record it, figure it out, understand. Just let the heart bathe in it. And as we move in our service today from the Dharma talk into our heart practice, it is not uncommon to shift your posture, maybe adjust, stretch a little bit, simply signifying that transition over the threshold from one portion of our service into the next. And our heart practice today is an equanimity practice. I appreciate all the wonderful members of our Sangha that do so much for us here. And one of them, of course, is our very own Dave, who gave me this practice. I think it's a wonderful equanimity practice. And a heart practice oftentimes is not a conceptual or an intellectual process. It is very much an opening and engaging of the heart and sharing that. And so with that, it's also not uncommon to have an outward acknowledgement. Some people like to place their hand on their heart. Some people maybe both hands, or perhaps you create the Anjali Mudra, that heart focusing. Or it's also perfectly acceptable to remain in meditative position or pose with your hands on your thighs or your lap. And I simply invite you to flip them up so that they're facing upward and outward as this sort of a projection of our heart energy. And with that, let's take a conscious breath. And again, allow the body to simply relax as the forehead and the eyebrows release, as the shoulders drop, becoming more gentle and easy. Allowing our awareness now to settle into this present moment and experience the body. If you need to take another conscious breath or shift your posture or make an adjustment, that's perfectly fine. And as our breath settles into the natural flow, its natural rhythm, I invite you to begin to reflect on your deepest desire for happiness and freedom from suffering for both yourself and others. Reflect on your desire to serve the needs of others and to be compassionately engaged in the world. Reflecting on both the joys and the sorrows that exist in the world. Allowing your heart's truest longing for truth and well-being to come into consciousness for all beings in all places. With each breath, breathe into the heart center the acknowledgement of the need to balance your pure intention of creating positive change with the reality of your inability to control people and circumstances. And I invite you now to recite silently to yourself these words honoring equanimity. All beings are responsible for their own actions. Suffering or happiness is created through one's relationship to experience. The freedom and happiness of others are dependent on their actions, not on my wishes for them. Suffering or happiness is created through one's relationship to experience and not by experience itself. Relaxing into the vibration of this balance between harmonizing the heart's deepest desire to help others with the mind's wise response of acknowledging our limitations. We rest in this balance, this openness. Breathing in, I calm. Breathing out, I smile at life. And in the true spirit of Dana, the Buddhist practice of generosity, temple services here are given freely. And in the same way, if you choose to give, please give with a generous heart, which means not in return for anything that you have received today, but rather so that those who may be seeking refuge will find it here in this temple, with these teachers, with these teachings, and this Sangha. We take a moment, and the Donna boxes are located at the back of the meditation hall, and we take a moment of gratitude for all of our wonderful ambassadors, folks who have become regular electronic contributors. Again, it's not the amount, it's just that the regularity of the donations help us to set a budget here at TBC. Also, tremendous gratitude for all of our amazing volunteers who work each and every day to bring more opportunities for connection, for learning, for education, for practice opportunities to our Sangha each and every day. Thank you so much to Christine and Allison. She's asleep over there, I think.
And to the Dolly.
And Dolly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Mr. Robert Brumet for everything that you do for us. Robert, for your wisdom, your teaching, your coaching, for teaching me chess and so many other wonderful things. And especially thank you to each and every one of you for sharing your heart, your presence, your practice with all of us here at Temple Buddhist Center. We certainly are the better for it. And so, as we prepare to end our service together today, I will place up on the board the Bodhicitta dedication, and we'll recite this out loud together, and all of our folks up in the heavenly abodes. And then after that, I will sound the closing bell, and I have just a couple brief announcements today, not a whole lot right now. Much of it's already up and running. So together, our Bodhicitta dedication. May the pure, brilliant sun of Bodhicitta dawn in each and every heart and mind, dispelling the darkness of suffering and confusion unstoppably, until all are illumined and awakened. And with the palms of our hands together in front of our hearts, as we go forth now from this place, may we enter each moment in innocence, guided by the wisdom of our hearts. And as we open our hands, open our eyes, shine our light into the world. Namaste. Thank you again, everyone, so much. Just a few quick things. Don't forget, there's delicious crumble cookies and coffee and tea and water downstairs. If you'd like to take some time to meet other members of the Sangha, and please don't be shy, introduce yourself and say hi and make a new friend. Also, don't forget our post-service discussion group is right down the hall. As soon as you exit the meditation hall doors, you turn to your left, and it's right down there. Being a post-service discussion on Hermits, maybe we need individual rooms for everybody, and we'll just send people to their own rooms. So that's going on. Also, our lending library is very healthy and burgeoning. So please stop by the lending library and see if there's something there for you. Jenny Han is going to be featuring a painting for process workshop. Registration is starting to fill up for that. It's online, so go to that, please. And that's February 11th from 1 to 3:30. A fabulous opportunity to experience judgmentalism and how it arises, and to learn to paint freely and just let the heart express without any concerns over judgment, rights and wrongs and do's and don'ts. Also, our very own Kyle is, once it's backed by popular demand, is our Basics of Buddhism class, and that's going to be Wednesday evenings from 6 to 7:30 for 8 sessions. It's a wonderful class. Many folks here have experienced and taken this class with Kyle, and it starts February 8th. Registration is open and online, so I hope you guys can take advantage of that. And then finally, just a quick reminder that our mala bead workshop is today. It is sold out, so if you registered, then we have a spot and some mala bead packets for you. If you did not, it was so incredibly popular that Julia wants to offer it again this fall. So we're going to do it again here this fall. So hopefully you can get involved with that. Let's see, lots of other great stuff coming up. Don't forget Buddha and the Bean on Tuesday mornings. Matt and Karen celebrate awakening in all of its forms. So there's that. Dave leads Recovery Dharma on Thursday nights, and there's Buddhism and 12-Step Recovery every Sunday at 12:30. A very vibrant program. We are featuring another full moon meditation coming up March 10th. And those will be dances of universal peace. We'll build a flower mandala, and there will be chanting and kirtan. So we hope you can join us for that. Oh, and our midweek, midday meditation. Every day, Wednesdays at noon, you can join Temple Buddhist Center online on Facebook Live and take 30 minutes to sit and practice. So that's always available every Wednesday at noon. Thank you. Had a whole bunch of thoughts crash into each other. All right, thank you, everybody. Peace and blessings, and go Chiefs.